Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author Lori Morrison, and we are talking about this beautiful book that just came out. Look at that. Look at the cover. It's so shiny, and it's called The Shaman's Guide to Power Animals. And I love this book, Lori, but I have to tell you, this is a whole new thing for me. And probably a lot of people that are going to be watching. So I have so many questions.
Good. Shoot.
Yeah, right. So you are in Sedona, right?
Yes, I'm in
I
Sedona.
was just in Sedona too. I was just
Oh,
there.
wonderful. Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful time of year to come here.
Yeah, well, it was back at the end of the last year and we went hiking and oh, it was so beautiful. Some of the hikes that they have around there are it's breathtaking.
Yes, very lucky to be here.
Yes. So, anyway, power animals. I have, I want to say I know a lot of things about. I always think I'm up to date on like people would call it New Age. I don't know. This is different than New Age though to me because I don't know a lot about the shaman religion, if you want to call it, or what do you want to call it?
Well, it's mostly described as animism. It was a term given
Okay.
to it years and years ago about, it's how it's kind of like, for lack of a better word, religion in nature, the
Okay. Well,
religion
that's
by
good.
nature.
That's good.
And that's the way most indigenous people practiced was they learned everything that they knew from nature. And so this book talks about the different animals, how each different culture saw the animals. I start in Egypt. I go to Japan. I
Yeah.
go to Machu Picchu, all over the world to bring what were the meanings of animals when they were seen in the wild, or when they were incorporated into the community of people. It was very interesting when I was looking at the Egyptian, um, world with their connection to animals. It was very interesting because they were often buried with animals. In fact, one famous god or entity in Egypt had like tons of donkeys buried with him. So why? So I went and started investigating. What did the donkey mean to them? What
Right.
does the what does the alligator mean? So I went into these symbolisms and meanings so that I could bring it to a new age and a new modern environment to see exactly how we could incorporate those animals and those spirits and that knowledge into our own life.
Well, how I when I was reading this and thinking about animals, and of course, you always have your domestic animals that you've grown up with, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like our first connection, right? But when my mom passed away in 2011, I always felt like if I'd go out for a walk, like I'd attract birds, okay, that would go like weirdly close to
Mm-hmm.
me, not afraid of me at all, but not one kind of bird, like just any bird that happened to be around, right? Well,
Right.
my daughter always felt like my mom spoke to her in butterflies. Like she always felt surrounded by butterflies. And then I was like, well, can she do that? Is it possible? Like, the way we're thinking, or is that correct? Like, can they do that? Can they come to one person in the form of a bird and then another person? Or is it not? Or is that not? Are we crazy?
Well, the indigenous communities, that's how they got all of their messages, was through the animals coming to them. And they started to develop an understanding that if a certain animal came, that it meant something to them. And so that was one of the things that I researched for the book was to say, okay, what if a cardinal keeps appearing over and over and
Right.
over? What is that message? And that's what the indigenous people used as really their communication with prophecy, with what was happening around them. Some certain animals would appear if there was a flood coming, or they would use it for agriculture.
Right.
So there was a lot of reasons that they used animals as messengers to help understand the natural world.
Yeah, and I mean, think about like that tsunami that hit a couple of years ago. They were saying that the animals weren't affected because if they would have been paying attention to the animals, they all ran inland. And
Exactly.
like
Yes.
there is
Very, very good
something,
example.
yeah, like their vibration, they're like at such a higher rate of vibration is what I guess I want to say. It's like they
Right.
just know things. I remember one time our house was robbed, and we didn't, we came walking in the house, and we were bringing the dog who was outside inside, and he ran across the house to a window that was open. Like there's no way he would have seen it. He had to go around like, and I was like, how did he know that? Like, it was weird, but
they're very perceptive. They're very much more intuitive than we are. So we should be paying attention to their messages.
Right. So, okay, so then we go to power animals. And I went on YouTube and I took this little, like, what is your power animal test? Right? And then mine came back a panther. And I was like, I never even saw a panther. I have no idea. Like, so I'm not going to say that that's the way to find out. But tell us about power animals.
Well, the indigenous communities would use the power of an animal when it was appropriate often. So, like, for example, if you needed to get rid of fear, one of the big animals for that was panther, because the panther walks through a jungle and sees nothing in front of it. It's a complete walk into the unknown its entire life. And so that type of power, that ability can be incorporated, that energy can be incorporated into a human being. And so the shamans would use that power. They often would blow that energy or essence into the chakra system of a person and use that to help even children or whatever if there was trauma. If a child experienced trauma in a tribe, like let's say saw a snake or had something really severe happen, immediately the shaman would take that animal and take that child and blow into its heart chakra an animal spirit to help support it. You see around here in Sedona, you see them oftentimes merging with animals, dressing like animals. The Kachina dolls that you probably saw everywhere you were in Sedona. That's part of the culture where they use the power of the animal to enhance their own life by merging with it at times or dancing with it. And this is similar to what the book brings to people, is that, how do I incorporate that power if I really need it? For example, I was looking for a new place to move to. And one of the greatest, I looked through my book and I said, oh, Mouse is perfect. Mouse finds a house all the time. So I called in the power of the mouse and said, come on, help me find a place to move to, because it's very difficult, the rental community here. So I use Mouse. And other animals, if you go through the book, there's a listing of all the different powers that that the animals have. For example, if you need some agility, a sheep would be perfect because they have the perfect agility on some of those high mountains that they climb on. The horns represent a higher consciousness or a dream state, being able to connect with higher levels. So depending on what you're interested in doing and learning more about, you can call on them and merge with this power and use it in your everyday life. And then also, like you're saying, what does it mean when they appear? And so you can have the book as a guide to see exactly what does that mean. What did that mean to most cultures when that animal appeared in their life?
Okay, can we also use this for like dreams?
Yes. Power animals will enter into dreams. And so a lot of times that's a great message to say, what do I need to know about right now? And if you dream about a snake or you dream about any creature, you can use the book as a guide.
I dream about snakes a lot. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Never in them like
snake. Me. Yeah, snake is about transformation.
Interesting.
shedding the skin. Also, things will get very blurry sometimes for a lot of people, because the snake kind of loses its vision for a while it's going through that process, and that means it's time to go within and really analyze what's going on inside of you before you emerge as this new person or this transformed individual. So there's all that information. If you're having those dreams as well, you can use the guide.
Do you really, like, when you're out in nature, do you really pay attention to animals when you are?
Yes,
Do you?
I find their arrival, or they will continue, like you said, it'll just keep coming and coming and coming until you pay attention. So from the moment I wake up, if I see a bird outside my window, I'm like, oh, why do I have blue jay here all day? Or why do I have this all
Right.
day? And then I'll use the book to go in and say, oh, that's because I need to be paying attention to this or to that. I'm not really focused, because so much of the time we're really not very focused on the outside world.
Right.
And of course, the indigenous people were very focused because it meant a lot to them,
Right.
those messages. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I was thinking the same thing. Like, when I go outside, if I find like a squirrel that isn't scared of me, not just
Mm-hmm.
birds, but,
Mm-hmm.
because mostly if you're out walking, animals are going to kind of like, scatter. That's just
Right.
what they do. But if you happen to come upon a squirrel that crosses your path and like isn't scared of you, and then I'm always like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. That's an interesting, like I've always felt that way though. I don't know. I've always felt connected to animals in that way. Like I've always,
Yeah, you often see children who actually are speaking to them as children. They're having a
absolutely.
conversation with an animal. And you're like, my daughter's talking to a squirrel or to an animal. What's going on with that? And they're actually able to speak to them when we're smaller. We do have that ability. As we get older, we realize we believe that we can't do that.
I absolutely believe that. I really do. I mean, I grew up with a lot of animals, and I think that people, if you were raised with a lot of animals, you really understand. As long as you don't lose that as you grow older, I think children do understand that animals can communicate, and they're more tuned into them. We're kind of like, as we get older, we're like, oh, it's just an animal. But I think
Mm-hmm.
children know that it's not just in it, like that they have communication skills, and I know
Mm-hmm.
for a fact that the animals that I was raised with absolutely did. My dog would know when I was upset, like come from anywhere. If I was crying, not even out loud, like, could come from anywhere to comfort. And, you're like, how did he know I was upset? Like they just know.
Yeah, and using the spirit of animals is kind of this. It's kind of similar. You're just calling them in the same way. Not all of us can have a tiger in the backyard
Yeah, right.
if we need one. But like for my granddaughter, she was having night terrors. Very scared at night and always waking up in the middle of the night, causing a lot of commotion in the house. And so I worked with her with power animals, and I said, all right. So we're going to go to the underworld, which is where the animals live. So we went down the trunk of the tree. We went down into the underworld. She went down there perfectly, like she'd been a trained shaman. And she was down there. I said, okay, what do you see? And she says, I see this big lion. And I could see it too. And so I said, well, let's bring it. Ask it if it would like to come back with you. Let's bring it back. She brought it back. And now, after she had that experience, she would always just call in the lion. And so at nighttime, when things got a little crazy for her or she was scared, she'd call in her power animals. She had her little lion there. She had some fetishes because the Native Americans, they make little fetishes, the little stones that are representative of the power animal. And she had that, and she called them in at night, and that was the end of the night terrors because she had this feeling that she was being protected, by this animal. So there's so many applications by using the spirit animals for support.
Well, I've been seeing it. I shouldn't say reading, seeing more and more on social media about power animals, and that's what got me so intrigued because I was like, "There's got to be something to this." And
Mm-hmm.
reading your book, I mean, first of all, it's gorgeous. This book is so beautiful. Look at that cover. I mean, I suggest people read this and really like you said, not only, I mean, just no matter what you're feeling, you have so many, I don't even know how many animals do you have in here. Like,
There's almost 200
oh
animals.
my gosh, you
Mm-hmm.
even have a fly. I just saw a
Yeah,
fly.
we have to even fly. The fly fly made the cut.
I know. What is a fly? Now I'm like all curious. I can't find it. What does that signify? Oh, persistence, quickness. Interesting.
Yeah, so and it'll tell you at the top of the page. Like mine's got all my little notes in it. It even got mosquito, and at the top of the page, mosquito is persistence, focus, and awareness. So you can call on them in so many ways. And mosquito is very interesting. I always tell people, don't be surprised, what your power animal may be, because what I do is I work with scalar energy, which is the same energy of Tesla. And so what I do is I'm able to give people, like I create a hologram of like you in the system. So it's kind of like your footprint. And then I have all of the animals, and I take the energy of all those animals and I scan you at your date of birth and the place of birth to find out what animal was with you at your birth.
Wow.
What the essence of what animal was there. And then I'm able to give you that information. I do that on my website. So it's not kind of a random spin the wheel kind of thing, like you were talking about. This is very shamanic. And then what I do is I open up the heart chakra and I broadcast that energy and the essence of that animal into you to kind of reunite you again, with that power. Because that particular animal that comes with you at birth is kind of a theme for your lifetime. It's the powers that it brings are kind of like a companion. It would be like if something was chosen for you to come through your life with you a certain capacity that you needed, to support your journey through life.
I love that. Especially because my mom got pregnant with me when she was 16. It was a very traumatic for the family. It was back in 1964, and my grandparents forced the marriage, or they were going to have my dad put in jail because he was over 18. I'm not even kidding. It's like very dramatic, okay? And so I always think like about that, event, like what it would have been like at my birth. Like no families were talking. It was all very... So I think there had to be some kind of power animal coming through for me, because I had a lot.
It would be very interesting to see what animal was at that time. Because that's, all those things are lessons for us in our lives, and it would be interesting to see what was kind of assigned to you at that point.
Yeah, to see like what was going to help protect me from all these crazy people. That
Yeah, I'm sure it was a very protective animal for sure.
Yeah, I would love it. Maybe I'll go on your website. That would be fun to have a talk with you on that. That would be awesome. I'm going to post, just so everybody knows, I'm going to be posting the IndieBound link so you can support your local bookstore. And I will be posting Amazon, and maybe, does it come out in digital?
Yeah, it's on Kindle.
It's on Kindle,
and Barnes and Noble, and then it's also available on my website as well.
Yes.
You can also if you want to get the book and have your power animal, I can send the book with a bookmark on the page of your power animal as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will definitely. I went to your website. It's an amazing website, so I will post that too. And it was so nice to meet you, Lori. I can't wait. Are you writing any more books?
Well, I'm going to I do have a memoir out, so if anyone's interested in that, in my memoir, what happened was the veil dropped on me, the third dimensional veil dropped, and there were 4 jaguars standing there. And that's kind of where I got my interest in why spirit animals come into our lives. And so I spent almost 3 years being initiated by jaguar spirits. And that's how I learned everything. I've learned about shamanism. I didn't go to a class or anything. I just had 4 jaguars as my teachers.
Well,
so that's the story I have in my memoir. If someone's interested in kind of how it happened and worked with me.
You know what? I will get your memoir, and then we can talk again. I'd love to talk to you about your memoir, because we didn't even get into that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild story.
Yeah, I will definitely do that, and then we can talk again. I'd love to talk to you again, but I want to read your memoir for sure. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's a page turner, that's for sure. This is the cover.
Let me see.
I just happen to have a little card.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the eye of the jaguar.
Oh my
that
gosh,
I,
I love it. I'm getting
that
it.
I saw.
That is so awesome. I'm
So,
gonna get it, and we're gonna talk again. Okay.
okay, sweetie. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you, Lori, and all the sites will be underneath there, and we will talk again. We don't have to say goodbye.
Okay,
Okay. Have a great
great.
day, Lori.
Nice to be with everybody today.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.